Hello everybody and welcome back to Aurora 4X. I of course am Sir Beardian, and today, well, we've got a few things to discuss first, but ultimately we're going to be sending out our all-in-one surveyors to go and explore some of the systems around us. We also might talk about system maps as well, since we do need to touch on that. So, got a couple of topics. First and foremost, I did figure out what was going on. Now, I've left some notes and I did a little bit of edited text, but I'm going to go into a bit more detail to explain what's happening. So, when you have orders, okay, crew months and the maintenance clock will actually continue to go up throughout the production cycle, depending on how far they were supposed to go up during that production cycle. It's only during the actual production cycle that the maintenance clock and the crew months get rewound when you're doing overhauls and things like that. So if you pay careful attention to the maintenance clock and crew months, although it's more noticeable for crew months, if you pay more attention to it when they're being rewound, in situations where they're being rewound, you'll notice that they go up, and then when on production, they'll rewind to back below when they first started. The other thing that is important is with carriers. Now, with carriers, it's extra. It's about the same, but there's an extra layer on top. So with fighters, right, they use. So the way it works, the way crew months works and maintenance clock works is that the game tracks when was the last time that the ship was under maintenance and at a colony capable of providing R&R. All right, so it tracks how long ago it was, and that's where this clock comes in. But things that dock, parasites, they have a second clock. They have a clock time since last launch. And as long as the time since last launch is less than the time since R&R, then that number is used instead. So that clock is used instead. Now, I don't know if this works for fighters only or whether any parasite ship considers that, but at the very least for fighters, what this means is that when your carrier leaves dock and it has a bunch of fighters docked to it, the crew months will rack up at the same rate as the carrier. When you launch them, however, the game will instantly track time since launch, and it will use that time for its deployment time, but it won't update this column until the production cycle, at which point it will reset to 0. Or however long it's been, usually close to 0 because it's been less than 5 days, but near 0 at least. At which point it'll also start ticking up the maintenance clock as well. So the second that the fighter is redocked to the mothership, on the next, then the crew months will essentially reset. But once again, it won't actually update until the next production cycle, at which point it should. Interestingly enough, at that point, it should actually revert to the carrier. No, it should revert. Yeah, it should start using the carrier crew grade, crew months, or something like that. It gets a little bit weird once they actually redock, but at that point, it shouldn't matter because they're docked. The second they launch, that'll reset the launch clock, and then that clock will be used instead. So, what does this basically boil down to? It boils down to, for a fighter that is docked or recently launched, this number means basically nothing. As long as your fighter is not spending more than 5 days or doesn't cross the production cycle, it means nothing. And until it crosses the production cycle, it, again, still means absolutely nothing. The crew grade only matters and only counts after it's only accurate after the production tick after the last launch. One other thing I should mention as well, which is a minor thing, not necessarily something that I ran into, but something to keep track of, and that is that a fighter's morale cannot go higher than what it was on launch. So if the carrier crew months exceeds its deployment time, and say the morale drops to 80%, the fighter will launch at 80%, and it cannot exceed 80%. So even though it's only been off the hangar for off the carrier for an hour or two, and it still has weeks in its deployment time, its morale will remain at 80% maximum. It won't drop instantly like the carrier will, but it will remain at 80% maximum. So that's something to keep in track. Even though it uses the time since last launch for the crew month for the morale, you still need to keep your carrier deployment time above zero, because above maximum, because you still want that 100% cap to your morale from deployment time. Okay, so that's carriers and fighters done. Now, I'm not going to necessarily bring back survey carriers, because at this stage they are too slow and the deployment time is too low, and they're just really, really bad, and the micro is nightmarish. But I do intend to bring them back as actual combat fighters and bombers, so you will be seeing carriers in the future. It just won't be survey ones. Okay. The second thing I need to talk about, I really should have made a list. The second thing I need to talk about, bloody hell, I really should have made a list. I know, it'll come back. Hang on, I think I actually discussed it. Oh. Right, the second thing I need to talk about is my ship calculator. So, a couple of things. First, one thing that I found, because one thing that I ran into, you'll notice, is I was fiddling with the engine type to try and get more range, if we were out of our fighters. And I remember how the range wasn't changing. Turns out, that's actually accurate. If you change the engine type and nothing else, the only thing that will change is your speed, because the engine power and the fuel use go up at the exact same rate, such that your range remains completely identical across the engine types. So by increasing your engine technology, you do not gain any extra range, you only gain speed. Which is actually a really, really interesting thing to keep in mind for designing ships. It means that, well, you need to get better fuel efficiency techs to get more speed out of a ship, or add more fuel. Just improving the engine type only makes you get there faster. It doesn't let you get further. So very, very important, and it will definitely come in useful once we start designing missiles, because I'm pretty confident that that's going to work exactly the same way for missile engines. Better engine technology is only going to make our missiles faster, not necessarily longer range, which is not a bad thing. I mean, more speed is definitely better than less speed, you know, especially at essentially no extra fuel cost, right? It makes a ship faster, it doesn't hurt the range, it doesn't really hurt how much fuel it uses, right? So that's a very, very useful piece of information to keep in mind, especially because the engine, especially because the engine type is relatively easy. I forgot what I was going to say. One other thing is, and I need to thank somebody for that. I forget who it is. Let me just pull them up. Who was it who mentioned it? Andre Bayer, who mentioned it. My crew count calculation was completely wrong. I don't know why or where I got the number for the commercial engine crew count, but yeah, it was completely wrong. The crew count is just twice your hull size. So a commercial jump drive or a civilian commercial, no, that's not civilian, it's commercial. A commercial jump drive probably would have been far more efficient than a military one for our things, for our jump things. So if we, so we're running, hang on, what are we actually running? Let's go have a look at what it would actually take. So Burke, okay, so we're at 10,500 tons. Where did the 14 come from? Oh, right, I had to raise it for something else. Okay, so we need, so at the moment we're running 25, no, not 25, 48 I think it was. Yeah, something like 48. Ion 5, 8, 50, and it was 1 engine. Okay, so that's basically our Burke right there. Yeah, whatever. Extra 0, 1 million. Okay, so that's essentially our Burke there. So 48 will get us. No, it wasn't 48. It was 46, 45, 42. 42. Okay, so we were using a 42. Okay, and it has a capacity of 8,400. If we switch it to commercial, and we can now drop it to like probably jump capacity of 8,250. Yeah, so size 6. Was that right? Hang on, 42. Military. 10,500, 8,400. So 8,400, drive tonnage of 21. Hang on. So 2,100 tonnage, 84 crew, 8,400 tonnage capacity. Okay. If we switch it now to 0 and we drop this down to 5, no, we need 6. 8,250. That might be enough, but that's a 3,000 ton engine. So there's significantly less crew, but there's significantly more tonnage of engine, and I still don't think that at this low scale of tonnage that a commercial jump drive would be viable. If we had better efficiency, then maybe, but even with the reduced crew, the tonnage is just it's 800 tons. So that's 800 is about 16 hull size. Is that 16? 800 divided by 54. Well, by 8. I can't math today. 800 divided by 50. 16. Yeah, it is 16. So 16 hull size extra for the drive, and we would still end up with a jump size of 11,250. Right? So if anything, it will potentially make our ship bigger. Right? Although we'd save a little bit on accommodation and stuff like that. So could have gone either way. Point is, this is what we went with. I did also do some science, and I did 100% confirm that yes, the engine type is all that matters. So the Burke would be able to jump with either a military or a commercial jump drive because it has a commercial engine. So the engine type is all that matters. The ship type is completely irrelevant. Okay. I think that about covers everything that I need to talk about before we get stuck into it. So, let's go and do that. So, shipyard, we have two Burke and Wills. Oh, that's right. System map, not that one. This one. Okay. So, well, it's not the system map, it's the galactic map. So, this is the galactic map. Now, we have discovered 4 systems, and you'll notice that we have Sol, and we have a giant messy blob. All systems, when they are explored, appear basically smack bang in the middle, in one single gigantic blob. What you need to do is you need to separate them out. And that is by clicking, dragging, and holding, by holding Shift and then clicking and dragging on the system. Probably what really grabs people is that there's no indicator that Shift does anything, and there's no indicator that you're actually dragging until you let go. So click, let go. Right? There's no indicator that you're actually doing anything, and it doesn't do anything either if you click anywhere that's not on a system. So it's very, 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 very easy to not realize how to do this, especially because I'm pretty sure it's not even written anywhere. I might actually cross in diagonals just as a system, just so there's no line directly to the name of the system. Okay. The other thing that you need to remember is when you're actually moving them, you go up here into System Position and click Save Positions. Otherwise, when you close it, all these will go back into the blob. And you can line them up. Let's go through the options. So main is where you end up. So you can pick your species, you can pick what you actually see in the display. What's this? Quick view. Yeah, that opens up these. So that lets you, oops. That let you change these quickly instead of through the drop down. So these buttons here are essentially just this drop down. These are your actual time controls. I really don't know why there are time controls in here, but they are. So there you go. You have map scrolling and map zooming. So let's go through. So control empire. This just gives you information. It doesn't. It tells you. It gives information on who controls what. So once we actually get more species, we'll be able to do this. This tells you who controlled it before. Task groups. Since everything is in here, it kind of defeats doing anything. Alien task groups, let's just select where they are. Naming themes lets you name a different theme for generating new systems. And of course the Australia sector. So you can actually see these by clicking on it. So you'll notice that the settings actually change. So by clicking on Sol has no theme, right? And it's Australia sector with a fleet maintenance of 56. So this is how much maintenance it costs for the system, for the ships in the system. And of course, what colonies we have. Colony cost 2 or less, that will be, of course, Australia, and these would be Mercury and Mars. You can go straight to the sector window. There you go. And you can refresh all map data. You'll notice that if, for example, if we're going to Sydney now, so Emperor of Australia, because that's who's controlling it, nobody's controlling it in the past. There are no fleets, no alien fleets that we are aware of, and it is using the Australian naming theme. This, of course, as you'll see, all systems explored from this point onwards will use this theme. So this doesn't do anything until you actually explore out from it. So, for example, if we want to explore out from Sydney and name, for example, all systems explore out using the Brazil theme, you can do that. And that way, it'll give you a little bit of an easier time of understanding like which quadrant of the galaxy you're actually doing things are happening in. We're probably not going to do that just yet. maybe? No, we're going to stick to Australia for now. Sector and fleet maintenance, and of course planets with colony costs. So we can see that there is one colony between 4 and 7. In Canberra we have one between 4 and 7, one between 2 and 4. Adelaide we have none, and Melbourne we have 2 to 4 and 1 4 to 7. Fairly straightforward. Okay, so basically it just gives you information. Map display options lets you see what's surveyed, well, gives you a toggle between here and here. So survey options, so display unexplored jump points. So that orange is this one here. So the dot is confirmed jump points that you have not explored yet. The circle, I believe, determines that... No, the circle determines that there are unexplored jump points, or unsurveyed, unexplored jump points. The dot says how many. Jump point survey status. Yeah, so that's the red one. So the red one indicates that there are jump points that are unsurveyed. So obviously Sydney and Adelaide is probably what we're going to go for. You can also show how much the survey points actually cost. So you can see that Adelaide only cost 113, while Sydney cost 449. I believe that's related to the size of the system. System bodies surveyed, so your geological survey. So we can see that Canberra still has a third of its bodies left to survey, while Adelaide has none. This gives you an indicator of 2 to 2.9 worlds. Blue is less than 2. So light blue is 2 to 2 to 9, and then grey is 3 to 5s. Uncolonized cost, yep. Uncolonized colony cost less than 2. There's another indicator that will light up once you have one, and of course less than 4. That is the light blue circle. Controlled by unpopulated systems, so that is the, I don't know what color that is. What is that? Brownish orange? I don't know. So this is systems that you control but have no population in. This ignores alien territory. Distance from selected system is very useful for determining long routes. So whether ships have enough range. So for example, so you select the system you want, and then for example, from Canberra to Sydney is 7.7 billion kilometers. I believe that's billion? Is it million or billion? Billion, yeah. So 7.7 billion kilometers, and it is from the system primary to the primaries of all those systems. So to go from the Canberra A star to Sydney A star, it takes 7.7 billion kilometers, and that's navigating from star to jump point to Seoul, then from Seoul Canberra jump point within Seoul to the Sydney jump point within Seoul, and then from the Seoul jump point within Sydney to Sydney's main star. So as you can see, that lets you sit. So for example, if we can see from this that traveling around Canberra is probably not necessarily going to take a long time, and as it is, with just the 4 systems, it's not really too useful. But for example, if you have a long chain of 10 systems, this will you can click on one end and it'll tell you exactly what range your ships need to get to the other end without having to refuel. So it is very, very useful once you have a much bigger map. For now, we'll leave it off. And time at this speed. So to go from Canberra to Sydney would take 89 days at 1,000 kilometers a second. Fairly straightforward. Okay. Other information. Alien task group locations. Well, we don't have any, but that will indicate their ships. Show task group locations will... Hang on. Indicates the presence of the fleet. I think we have other fleet indicators that are stopping that from going away. System names. Don't know why you would ever want to turn this off. System numbers. These are the numbers, if you remember when I was talking about system generation, these are the numbers that determine sector clusters. So if we roll high in clustering, Melbourne and Adelaide would probably have systems that might cross-link to each other, whereas Canberra is much more likely to piss off and go into the middle of nowhere. And even if it clusters, it's still not very likely. So, for example, so Canberra has, what do we set it to? Like 50% chance of cluster? So there's a 50% chance that Canberra will have no chance of linking to Melbourne and Adelaide. It might link to Sydney. I don't know if that's actually close enough. It probably isn't. So there's a 50% straight up chance that Canberra is going to link off somewhere else. While there's a 50% chance that exploring from Melbourne or Adelaide might link into Melbourne or Adelaide. So there's a much higher chance of cross-linking these two systems to one another, and there's a much higher chance of pissing off in the middle of nowhere from Canberra. Star types. Roleplay, I guess, but it does tell you exactly how many stars there are as well, because it gives you their types. Well, in theory, unless they have... Does it duplicate? Yeah, no, it tells you which one. So there's three M9Vs here. So yeah, it tells you exactly how many stars there are, which I guess could be useful. Race control in flag and color. So if you want to get a quick overview on who controls what. Previous race control, obviously that's not going to do anything because we don't have any previous controlling races. Green circle to indicate populations of over 100 million. Display populated, a slightly more blue circle. That will let you track your colonies easier. Shipyard complexes, gives you a little shipyard indicator. Hidden JP link names. These, well, we don't have any hidden warpoint indicators, so doesn't do anything. Sectors, color and text. Suspected dormant jump points. This is if you see an enemy jump into a system, but you haven't surveyed the jump point. Security status. I believe that's for PPV, if they don't have enough of it. I believe that's also for when ships get blown up. You get the little red indicator that we'll probably eventually see one day, and discovery date if you if you forget when you discovered a system, so you can do your role playing there. Okay, that's the map display options. Warpoint data. When you click on a system, it tells you how far away it is from the main star, what bearing it is, and where it's going. And it gives you also a general overview of how the jump points are located. So for example, in Sydney, they're all bearing southwards. Canberra, they're kind of spread on that angle. Melbourne, they're more vertical. Adelaide, well, we only know one, and it's all the way over there. And in Seoul, it's very vertical. So it gives you a good idea of what the jump points look like. Useful information if you need it, I guess. Survey points tells you how many are visited and system bodies surveyed. Useful if you just a bit more detailed. System fleet order of battle tells you what actual ships and fleets are in there. Cycle systems will let you select things, I guess. So you can find things a little bit easier. System positions, that's this button here. Save, restore, and line up. Restore just lets you take it back to the position without having to close and reopen the whole thing. And line up allows you to center them a little bit more precisely. System notes, you can write notes into a system. It also gets some automatic ones, so grab survey complete. I think it also tracks some other system events. Useful information gives you information on how to use this entire window. So for example, to move a single system, hold shift. Yeah, this is like the only place it actually tells you this, and it's buried literally off the top of the thing, right? So move a system with shift, move multiple systems, so you can select multiple systems with control, and then move them. You can deselect with control. Keypad numbers can move the map, so that's those there. Yeah, apparently there was an older galactic map that auto-save positions. Yeah, so you can read that. Map parameters will change the coloring. Planet types tells you how many bodies and what they are. Map notes will let you stick labels on maps. And map key tells you basically everything that I just told you over the last 10 minutes. So that is the system map. We'll be seeing more of that later as our survey grows. But if we actually jump back into it, so Sydney and Adelaide are where we are going to want to explore. But if you remember, Sydney has those really nice planets that I would really want. The problem is, of course, that we don't actually see what's here. So let's go have a look at each one of those systems. Adelaide, I believe, was a bit of a crapshoot with almost no planets in here. There's also no, this is the one with 4 stars. Never mind. Canberra had a bunch of comets. I think Canberra was largely worthless. Like, it had a couple of nice planets, but nothing too amazing. Sydney had those 2 planets, and Melbourne has the Rex. So I think Melbourne is where we are probably going to want to go. Melbourne is also the jump point down this way, so yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, Melbourne is where we are going to want to explore. So shipyard, go to Melbourne, standard transit. Have we actually completed the survey on Melbourne? Yes, we have. Okay. Yeah, actually. Transit and divide. Oh, and we are going to rename this to Survey Fleet. I'm just going to create a new one and rename that to Shipyard. I may have done something stupid with doing that. Let me just go check the shipyards real quick. Yeah, I broke that. Probably should not have done that. Default. Okay, oh, that's fine. Okay. Let's go. Oh, hang on. Actually, we're just going to rename this to the first, yeah, we're just going to take over first survey fleet. Yeah, we don't really need the camel at the moment. Let's have you join shipyard task group, because it's otherwise useless. And I don't want to accidentally send it off to die. Let's switch to Sol real quick. Okay, they're not that fast. And they're only doing 1280 at the moment. They're about as fast as those fighters were. Which is actually the biggest problem that we actually had. Oh, you didn't actually jump, did you? Okay. Standard transit and go standard transit and then Geo. And rename this to second survey fleet. Oops. Oh, crap. And that one is going to standard transit and then third standard transit and then Geo. So we're going to pop up there. There we go. And now they're going through the 2 little systems. So we're going to explore jump point 2 first. There we are. Okay, we now have a new system, Brisbane. Let's see what it looks like. 3 stars. Brisbane A is actually very close to one another. 27 and 9 AUs. So there's Brisbane A. There's Brisbane C, and there's Brisbane B. And B is only 4 million kilometers. Yeah, that's nothing. This is a tiny, tiny system. Okay. So we got A is a nothing planet. B has a terrestrial planet, but there's no oxygen, so I don't think we're going to run into any civilizations here. C has a bunch of planets, but no oxygen. So yeah, I don't expect we're going to run into any civilizations here. We might still run into hostile contact though. So we'll see what comes out. We are going to explore that other system soon. I believe that's generating it now. Okay, and what the hell are you giving me? Holy shit! Why are these asteroids visible? Oh, because I don't have a thing. Okay. Oh boy. That is a habitable world. Shit. This could be a very good thing, or this could be a very bad thing. This one is also potentially... no, not quite. Almost habitable. It's almost habitable. There are a lot of habitable worlds on Perth. And this system is very homeworld-esque. That generation time, the system generation time, I am not happy with. I am fully expecting to see hostiles in here. Okay. Our quokkas might be good enough. Maybe. Let's go have another look at them real quick. Now, you could argue that I am metagaming a little bit. And I probably shouldn't be doing this, but this is something that you are going to want to watch for as an experienced player. And like I said, at the end of the day, it is entirely... I mean, it's a solo game. You're cheating nobody except yourself if you do decide to do this. So just keep that in mind. But I think that we do have enough time to design some technologies for ships. So let's see what we can actually pull. First of all, what kind of engines have we got? What's the best we've got? Engine power is at 2. Okay. Not that. That. Okay. So we have ions. We have engine power 2. We're not going to override the engine count. I would like a speed of 6,000, please. It's a little bit lower than I usually go for, but that's what we're going to do. Power mod, we're going to go with a 1.5. Efficiency is 0.8, and engine size is 50. That is not crash hot. Let's go for 25 billion kilometers. Can we do it on 10,000? I don't think so. We're going to need 2 engines out of it, and that's going to give us a speed of 8,000. We're not going to override any... We're going to do a fuel override, because we want 25 billion. Do we have uranium or high density? What armor have we got? We do have high density, don't we? No, we have composite. Shit, when do we get composite? Okay. Composite. I'm okay with that. Let's go for 4 layers. Seriously? 4 layers. Okay. Okay. So, problem with this is that our engines are too weak. Our engines are 50% of our ship, so we probably won't be able to pull off that speed with this power mod with this mass target. Can we get... What happens if we do power mod up to 2? I don't think this is going to be good for us. Well, we can do the 25 billion kilometers in 2 days, but it's going to cost us 3.3 million fuel, and that is really, really high, and the tonnage is just worse. So, because we still need 2 engines to get the full 6,000 speed. If we override it to a single engine, we get a little bit less than 6,000, which could be doable, but it's still going to cost us 3.3 million liters just for this one ship, and that's just no, that's a no. So we're going to drop the power mod back down to, say, 1. Okay, so let's stick with 1.5 for now. Let's up. What's our shipyard tonnage? At the moment, we have 15 is our biggest. Okay, what can we do with 15,000 tons? 33. Oh, yeah. Okay. Get rid of the jump drive too. Okay, so we get 6,300 tons of weaponry, crew, and equipment. If we do a 15,000 ton, 6,000 ship speed. What's even more awesome, if you have a look at the required engines, we have exactly 2. And it's only going to cost us 2.3 million fuel. That's still a lot of fuel, though. That is a fair amount of fuel. What if... Wait. We have... our fuel efficiency is better. Our fuel efficiency is better. Aha! We have 0.6. Yes! 1.7 million liters of fuel. That's a bit more tolerable. Still not fantastic. Still not amazing. But tolerable. I reckon I could work with this. It's about 6,500 tons of guns. I could work with this hull. Wouldn't be amazing, but could work. What about an 18,000 ton hull? And that's going to take 2.4 engines. What if we drop the power mods? Try and get it up to just flat 3 engines. Can we do 1.2? Oh, okay, 1.2. Perfect. That's exactly 3. So 3 engines going to cost us 6,000. 7,800 tons. That's not better. 7,800 compared to 69. It's like 900 tons of weaponry and equipment. It's like it's a reasonable amount, but we're paying for it with 3,000 extra tons of ship just to get 700 tons of actual payload, and it's probably gonna. I think it's gonna cost more fuel as well, and fuel is not exactly. It's a little bit premium at the moment because we can ramp up our fuel economy pretty quick, but it's not quite there yet. So we are we can't afford to spend that much fuel. We could shift some of that fuel out into a tanker. So if we drop it down to 15, that gives us 7,600 tons and about 1 million fuel. 14. Yeah, about 1 million fuel will get us about 14.5 billion kilometers. I can work with that. 14.5 is enough to cross most systems. Actually, perfect timing. Let's go have a look. Save and app information. No, it's what. Not that one. distance from Seoul. Perth is 12 billion. So 14 billion kilometers will get us to Perth and then give us like 1.5, 2 billion kilometers to play with in terms of battle. And that's assuming we don't refuel at all. We will, of course, be bringing fuel tankers in. The other thing to consider is our jump capability. And right now, it's only 14,800 tons. So we could potentially drop Paramount to 1.44 or 1.45. Force it 2 engines. 5800 speed is not 5800 speed is not terrible. Still gets us 8.75. Saves about 100,000 liters. No, not 1.45. And we still get 7,600 tons of payload. Could do this. I think this could work. Okay, we can do warships. We can do warships. I think we need to find out, first and foremost, what kind of speed we're looking at for our little buddies. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start pumping out a couple of quackers. Because we need more. Because if we need to, a whole bunch of quackers will be a reasonably effective deterrent. Stick an extra slipway on, get it out, so we can get more of them out. Okay. I'm considering possibly we'll design a missile base as soon as we confirm that there is anybody actually in here. So let's go. I expect we should be seeing. We should be seeing somebody rock up any moment now, and I expect we'll probably be seeing the. I fully expect to see somebody pretty soon. I do not want to give away the jump point necessarily, though. If they haven't seen us come through the jump point, then I don't want to give it away. We also want plenty of deep space tracking stations, so let's get 14 of them. And what's almost done? October, December, May. That's quite a while away. Okay, now we kind of need all these. But I'm going to shift the Academy out and swap it in for deep space tracking. Because that's a little bit more important to us right now. Okay. Oh, and more fuel refineries. We need more fuel refineries. Let's get another 100 out. We're going to double our production capacity. Deep space tracking stations are not too expensive, so they're not gonna take too long. Actually, I'll shift these to 5. So we can get these going at the same time. Yeah, that's fine. I'm wondering if I should just make a beeline straight for the habitable world. Yeah, bugger it. Let's go make a beeline. Oh, and we have expanded the shipyards. So we're just going to keep tooling up these naval yards. Getting the tonnage up. And yeah, we're just going to raise that one too. Extra slipway, that's fine. Hang on, what are we doing? Right. I'm sending second survey fleet. Which one was it? Perth A1. Oof. Deep in the core. Okay. Now, passive sensors don't need to be turned on, so we don't have to do anything fancy or special about it. What am I calling it? Yeah, okay. Production cycle is done. Yeah, so we don't have to do anything fancy or special for passive sensors. They just work. Oh, and quackers are definitely soul defense only. We are not going to be attacking with them at all. They don't have the range for it. Ooh. Brisbane C has an anomaly. Do we know about that? Unusual stellar radiation. Good, decent amount of geranium and macassium and corundium with good accessibility. Yeah, drop a colony on Brisbane Sea. Perth is where we need to be pay extra attention to it. But Brisbane's fine. And before I eat my own foot. First survey fleet is ready. Okay. First survey fleet, we're going to switch you to Grav survey. See, this is why I like all-in-one explorers, because I only have to come back to it every once in a while to just toggle between Grav and Geo survey, and then just give it marching orders to a new system when it's finally done with both of them. So they are much less micro-intensive. You're not constantly having to be paying attention to them and moving them around and shit like that. I wonder if we're going to run into their ships before or after we detected their colony. I still have to wonder whether they even have a colony. It could be possible that the delay in generation is just because of that many bloody asteroids all over the place, and all those planets. So it is still entirely possible that there's nothing actually here. It's possible. I don't think so, but it's possible. That said, if there's nothing in here, then Perth is definitely going to be #1 priority to get colonized, that's for sure. Yeah, we got a lab done. We're going to put it into... gas rate of fire. I want that out ASAP so we can do gas guns. Because once rate of fire hits 3, gas turrets become pretty useful. Rate 2, they are still a little bit on the weak side. Get an extra 1,000 tons. Back to Perth. building freighters, don't care. Alright, Perth A1 is right there. That's the one we're going for. Shield region 1 is done. That's fine. There we are. Let's see. Yep, bingo. There it is. We have aliens. Okay. And with perfect timing, we are just shy of an hour. So I think I am going to leave you with that cliffhanger. While I think a little, and next episode we are going to get stuck into designing our warships. I may or may not record that episode tonight. If I don't, you're welcome to leave suggestions on whether you want gunships or beam ships. Sorry, gunships or missile ships. I'll probably do a combined arms kind of deal, so I'll probably design some gunships and then go ahead and design some missile ships. And then just send them both in to get a little bit of both. I might do my 2-stage ship, but I don't know if I have the engine technology for that. So, we'll see. But, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode where we start work on designing some military ships that make things go boom. See you then.